Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode 11 of the Fully Rendered Podcast. And this is a special episode, for we are joined today by a fantastic guest, McFluffin of Maxroll fame, I'm going to say, because you've posted so many guides on there. I think you're famous by now. But yes, welcome to the show. So just intro, I'm joined, of course, by the lovely...
Pulp Fictionally, what's up, guys?
Fantastic. And of course, my other co-host, below me this time.
Pulp Fictionally, what's up, guys? Hey!
Hi!
It's
Also
me,
known
Peachy
as-
Pixely. Hi.
There we are.
I was just telling everyone before we went live how I've personally crafted by hand the intro.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
No, Rafe was asking just during the intro who made it, and it was me. I made the intro. We slightly changed it to also act as a trailer and whatnot. But yes, that was me messing around and learning DaVinci Resolve. Trying to work Premiere, because Premiere is just too expensive. So I was like, let's see what we can do. And that's a culmination of the work.
DaVinci and applaud you for being able to do that with it. It's sometimes quite the pain to work with it, but
it took many hours, but to be honest, I do prefer it to Premiere. It's been the easiest transition from one to the other. It's Photoshop I'm struggling to find a replacement for. I'm using GIMP, and I'm like, oh, I hate GIMP. I'm not a fan. But
I am so deep in the Adobe ecosystem that I couldn't change one. I'd need a replacement for everything.
Well, I think eventually I'm just gonna have to, suck it up and just get a subscription just for Photoshop and for Lightroom, because I've got add-ons as well, like Lumina and stuff, and it's just it's a waste if I can't utilize those. But anyway, that's enough about the actual editing of content and whatnot. McFluffin, do you want to tell us who are you? How did you get from whatever you were doing before? What was the beginning before you went into content creation?
yeah, sure. Does it look like there's an echo on my voice though?
Yeah.
Interesting.
With me?
There's a bit of an echo.
I don't know,
Not
it seems
here,
fine
but-
to me.
Of course.
What? I just talking.
I will find a way.
There's going to be a lot of Diablo talk today, and I haven't
How about
played
now?
Diablo 4, so I'm...
You just
I'm
wanna-
not that far in Diablo 4, so... but I do have someone
Is
playing
it-
Diablo 4 right next to me, so I can... What? Okay. I have a reference next to me.
Right.
I'm cheating.
McFluffin, do you want to just test to see if there's any echo anymore?
Yep. How's it now? Is there still an echo?
Are we good? Are we good, chat?
Does it now?
Thumbs
Will there
up.
be echo?
Yep, thumbs up. I got a thumbs up next to me.
Cool. So
It's good.
before we go into Diablo as well and continue with McFluffin's story, will we be talking spoilers? Are you okay with us talking spoilers, Pope?
I don't mind.
You don't mind? Okay, cool.
I don't mind. I'm only there to ogle Lilith. That's all I care
To
about.
ogle mommy. That's
Yeah,
fair. That's fair.
Yeah, she's very hot.
So sorry, did you want to continue, McFluffin?
Yeah. So you're asking about sort of my background before I started doing content creation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've probably got a pretty interesting background for getting into this. I guess the most of it kind of revolves around the 10 or so years before I got into it or leading into it. So I was in the military, I was in the army, and then I was actually in school for 7 years, two double degrees, getting my bachelor's degree and then my master's degree. And while I was getting my master's degree, which is in philosophy, and my bachelor's was in brain and cognitive science, and they don't seem related at all, but that's kind of how it went. That's when I started I kind of want to do that. I don't know if I'll be good at it. Wilson was kind of hype at the time. And I'm like, that looks like a game I could play a lot. Unfortunately, that didn't really work out.
No.
Anyone knows the story of Wilson. It did not end well, but I started with that and kind of just led me into doing it. And eventually I found Last Epoch, which is the game I've mained for the majority of my time here before Diablo 4. And eventually ended up with Maxroll. But yeah, my period of time before it was I played a lot of games, but it was science and philosophy and military, and at one point I was even in finance. So I've done a lot of different things before I got to here.
Would it be
That's awesome.
easier to list the fields you haven't had?
Possibly.
What haven't
the
you done?
I haven't been a high diver.
Not yet.
Not an astronaut yet. Yeah, not yet. True.
Not
Yet. Notice the yet.
Yeah.
And then you'll do both at the same time, and people will be bamboozled.
A high diving astronaut would be, pretty
Your
cool.
own hybrid field. There you go. High
all
dive astronaut.
whilst making guides on a max roll on how to space how to space dive, how to
space.
how to high dive in
Space
space, perhaps.
At the
High
same time,
dive from
actually
space.
making it in the middle of the high dive, writing the content.
There you go.
Exactly. So
Just live
a long
tweeting
dive, so you
all the
got
way
time.
down. Ah!
I'm actually quite interested in how the max roll thing works. So is that, did they approach you? Did you approach them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I won't go into too much detail about it because there's a number of things that happened, but ultimately, they knew me because we had previous conversations, and they also decided to make, when they decided to actually go with it, actually make the Last Epoch branch. They approached Lizard IRL, who's a good friend of mine, about it, and he said, "I want to bring on these two people," and I was one of them. It was me, and it was Tarek for speedrunning, and me for the other stuff along with Lizard. And so he asked me, and I was like, "Yep, that's exactly what I want to do," and that's how I ended up on the team.
Right.
Nice.
Okay. And does that mean that you're like freelance, or are you a contractor? Are you fully permanent, or?
We're contract, so it's not like we're not employees,
Right.
but we do have a contract, NDAs, exclusive agreements, etc.
That's really cool. Like for me, because obviously I've essentially watched your journey of going from like, I started watching shortly after Wolson, and got more of your Last Epoch content, but obviously watching you go from this like small creator up to now being on max roll, you do Diablo 4, you're doing all these guides and this additional content. It's been quite a journey, and it, like, not to sound, I hope this doesn't sound condescending, but I'm super proud of you, like watching you go from like one place to the other, and like just doing it so well. So
not condescending at all.
Yeah,
No,
glad,
yeah,
I'm
it's been a crazy ride so far. We'll see how far we get, but we've already gotten a long way. I made a lot of decisions, as far as like, well, I think this is going to happen. And if it doesn't, it's going to be bad. Like, is Last Epoch going to be good enough to get to the next level? And if it didn't, who knows where we are? I might not be doing this. If I didn't join Max Roll, who knows if I would have been able to grow enough to continue at this stage and keep trying to grow. But yeah, there's it's a crazy journey trying to be a content creator. It's crazy competitive, and I can tell you one thing: I wouldn't have been able to do it on my own. Like, I've had a lot of people help, both in the community, both other content creators, obviously Max Roll. Like, this is very much a team effort, and I'm getting propped up by a lot of amazing people.
Right. Yeah, that's fantastic. So let's jump into the reason we're here, Diablo. So I think let's start with perhaps a contentious opening question, but it's one that I imagine that I know I've been asked it, and I imagine you've likewise been asked it during your streams. Diablo 4, is it worth the $70?
Yeah, that's a good question, isn't it? I do get asked it from time to time, and the answer is always, it depends. It depends on the kind of gamer you are. If you are someone who likes ARPGs, it's probably worth it for you. If you have to have hardcore PoE style, all that complexity, then maybe not. But for the majority of people, I do think it's probably worth that money if they have it. Obviously, if you don't have that kind of money, you shouldn't be spending on a video game. But if you have that kind of money and you're like, do I buy this or do I buy this other thing? Yeah, it's probably going to be worth your investment in that game. You'll probably get a lot out of it. There's a lot of things to do in the game. There's a lot of hours you can play in it, especially with seasonal. If you come from a different genre, it's so hard to say. It's definitely a lot more accessible than previous iterations of ARPGs. And to some extent, even Diablo 3 doesn't have the reach that Diablo 4 does, where it's got a lot of MMO-like features. It's got the open world. It's got world bosses. So I do think it hits a broader audience than the typical ARPG, even Diablo 3. However, how broad that is, it's hard to say right now. It's still so new. We're definitely seeing a ton of players who are not used to ARPGs playing this and continuing to want to play it, wanting to play in the seasons, and actually being shocked by some of the ways ARPGs work. Like, a lot of people have been shocked that when you started a new season, you're expected to start a new character and you can't progress like your seasonal rewards without starting a new character. And some people are really mad about that. And people who are from ARPGs are just like, that's how it's always been, and it's how we like it. So how that plays out, like how it is for players who are not used to the genre with all the normalizations expected, all the 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 common ways that these games work. If they adjust to that, or if Diablo 4 changes and shifts to fit them better, that's all stuff we're going to have to see. But I do think that a lot more people should be taking it seriously, that as far as a potential game to play, even if they didn't play ARPGs, than the other fare from the genre.
Right. And just to elaborate on what you were saying there, I know I saw a thread on a reply to something Rod Ferguson had posted, where a lot of newer players were, like he's saying, were expressing surprise. It was like, wait, I can't just indefinitely make a new character and have the level maybe extended with each season, things like that. A lot of people were very, very shocked. So I think one of the reasons for that is, as you mentioned, Diablo 4 is very much more an accessible game, especially in comparison to, say, the likes of Path of Exile, but also because of the sheer marketing that they've thrown behind it. I personally would love to know the number that was spent on just the marketing, like the collaboration.
Didn't they pollute New York just to advertise the game?
I mean, they've done a great many
New York
things.
is already polluted.
Yeah, they created all the forest fires in Canada, which then polluted New York with all the smog. Yeah.
That's gotta cost a couple of bucks.
They did a collaboration with Halsey and one of the singers from BTS. So they just did a song about Lilith. They did the KFC giveaways and like whatever collaborations you want to call it. There was a load of other things. They painted a chapel, like they just like bought a chapel and they painted it like Michelangelo style, like Sistine Chapel style, but with like demons and angels and Lilith and Anarius. And apparently, like they did a giveaway where some players get to have their faces on like NPCs in the painting or something like that. They did a whole lot, because that's expanded and reached out to a much wider audience of people that don't necessarily play games perhaps as much as we do, your normies, your casual players, things like that. And all of these people are suddenly playing what they expected probably to be a similar experience that they had when they played Diablo 2, but offline. Like you'd see people going, oh yeah, I used to play Diablo 2 and there was none of this seasonal shit, and then you get all the vets who are like, wait, there's ladders, there's yeah, no, there is. there's been all of these things, but they're completely unaware of it. Do you think that will have a major impact? Like all these people obviously that are new to the game or new to the genre, do you think that will have an impact on how or what direction Blizzard will take with developing Diablo 4 as a live service action RPG?
Yeah, great question. I feel like it has to, and the question really comes down to what will be impacted by it. Like, will they go away from the seasonal model where you reset, which I think for a lot of ARPG fans would be a pretty big L.
Agreed.
Because it's just a different kind of genre where if you start over from level 100 to go to 110, it's not like with like expansion of World of Warcraft. It's not like apparently Destiny works like that. It just won't feel the same. The way the progression works is you're kind of expected that you're going to start over, and that whole power curve, the power progression from 0 or level 1 to level 100 is where the fun is for the people that enjoy the genre. So we'll have to see. I've been wondering myself, are they going to lean more into the MMO elements? Are they going to go more, because I mean, the game is already so much faster and so much more powerful if you're in a party. There's already a lot of MMO style stuff in it. The world bosses are not usually done solo, and you don't have to find a party. You just go there and all of a sudden 15 people show up. This also happens to some extent in a lot of the events. So they're already incorporating these things that are like effectively you have to party or multiplayer, even if you didn't necessarily want to or mean to. So maybe that's one way that they start to bring in the more casual audience and make this more of a hybrid approach, where ARPG is definitely a part of it, but maybe some of the norms of the ARPG genre begin to get broken over time.
And just to again add to that point where there's a lot of MMO elements, the vast majority of the end game does involve participating in things that involve other people. You got your nightmare dungeons, of course, that you can do solo, but if you do like your Legion events or your world bosses, like you said, even Helltides, you're likely to run into a number of people, especially if you want to take on like the is it Krillix, wherever his name is, the boss that spawns during Helltides. I've tried him solo, got him about halfway, and I was like, this has taken 15 minutes. I'm done with this thing, and I'm leaving, kind of thing. And like, you definitely need people there to participate, and it does seem that they've almost hyper focused on the group content compared to, say, the more soloable content. For example, there's only one pinnacle boss, really. Have you done Uber Lilith? I believe we've all been calling it.
I haven't. I know Rax on the Maxwell team has beaten her. I've been really focused on build making, so I don't even have a level 100 character yet. I have 3 80+ characters. So Uber Lilith is still a long ways out for me, but yeah, she's exceptionally challenging right now. I think only a few people have a solo completion of her that didn't use some sort of bug or exploit to do it. I think it's like less than 10.
Yeah,
that's intense.
Yeah, it's a very small list. It's a really cool looking fight. It's probably one of the more most dynamic and like theatrical fights that you have in the game. And it's at the moment only it is the only one. There's a couple that you're like, ooh, this is kind of cool. Like the 70 capstone Elias dungeon is kind of cool. But everything else is very cookie cutter, for lack of a better phrase, in terms of what to expect from a boss. And then you've got Uber Lilith, where it's like, oh, here's like multiple phases, some additional things, like parts of the arena are falling away, and it's like, oh, more of that. So hopefully we will get some more of that. You mentioned obviously a lot of your characters are in the 80s. Do you find the fun drops off a little bit once you get into the 80s?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think for the vast majority of players right now, even ARPG fans, the state of the game, pre-season, this is not season 1 yet, so all the season 1 mechanics aren't there and beyond. Generally it boils down to, at some point around level 80, you do nightmare dungeons over and over and over again, and every once in a while maybe you do Helltide to get some materials that you need for crafting, and all of the other things that the game has are irrelevant. They just do not apply anymore. You shouldn't do them unless you're just bored and don't mind having less efficiency. Those are really the only 2 things that have any value anymore, and I think that's a problem, and I hope that season 1 is going to begin to solve that.
Yeah, we found out, I can't remember if it was today they posted it or yesterday, but one of the Diablo 4 devs confirmed that things like Shaco or Harlequin's Crest is actually obtainable if you're level 85 in World Tier 4.
Put that in massive air quotes. It's obtainable for some people in the world, meaning that like I think 2 Shakos have dropped in the entire world right now. Like not the world like your server, but like the world, 2 have dropped. Yeah. So there's like I think 12, 6, I can't remember exactly.
I think
8 to 12
6 that require level 85. And
then there's some that are lower, but they can drop in World Tier 3, but they have half the drop rate of that one. And since 2, okay, so no 4 of those. Okay, great. So there's like 12 items that are effectively unobtainable, not just for non-hardcore, but for everybody. You can't put that, like, we don't put those in build guides for max roll because no one's going to have them.
Yeah, the chances of actually getting them are like rarer than probably like Tyrael's Might or Zod from Diablo 2.
They're far rarer than mirrors in PoE. If you know anything about like PoE mirrors, which are like if you play the game 10 years, you might get one. They're rarer than that.
Yeah, it's pretty obscene, and a little like part of me is like, oh cool, there's always that item that if it drops you stack your pants and you're like, oh my god, I've got quit, bank it, pick it up immediately, this is the best item, oh my god, hurrah. But I personally found the list of uniques in total to be somewhat short. I was hoping there would be a lot more, to be honest. Hopefully they'll add a fair chunk with season 1. I don't anticipate that many, if any at all, to be fair. But yeah, what do you think of the itemization? Do you think there's like enough uniques to balance out what you can get from like aspects on legendaries and things like that?
Yeah, uniques are in an interesting position for me because they have unique effects, but so do legendary aspects. They both have unique effects, and uniques you can't change the stats on. And one of the great things about Diablo 4 is items matter. Like the stats that you have on your gear really matters. You can put a ton of damage reduction on, for example, and become very, very tanky. Yeah. Well, if you want to put a pair of uniques on because they have a cool unique fix and they don't have damage reduction on them, and that's a slot where you can put a lot of damage reduction, you almost never should, unless it's like build enabling. You should never wear that. So I think uniques are problematic. You can't craft on them. You can't change those affixes in any way. And so most players are overvaluing them as like, they're cool. But I think they need to really look at uniques again and say, all right, if you're going to add a lot more uniques to this game, you need to either A, give them amazing non-unique affixes as well, so that it's not an either or where people are going to choose not uniques most of the time. Or you need to give us some way of interacting with that allows us to customize those items.
Yeah, 100%. I've been in a similar situation where I was making a what I call my bonk barb, which is basically dependent on death blow, and I got the 100,000 steps because I was like, oh, this is gonna be great for a resource generation. When you do ground stomp, you get like 50 fury just immediately regenerated, and I was like, okay, cool. But I lost so much, as you said, defense stats by trying to equip them, and I was like, is it gonna be worth it? Late game, probably not. I'll probably just be better off getting the resource from elsewhere. But at the same time, I'm like, but it's the unique. Like, it's this novel thing. Like, I want to use it because it's supposed to be like, quote unquote, the best, one of the best items in the game. And then it's like, well, is it though? And I find it does depend on the classes. Like the druid, I know you've been working a lot on the druid, so I want to hear especially what you have to say. But I found the druid is extraordinarily item dependent.
Yes, absolutely. And
especially in comparison to the classes where it's like, I can breeze through on just random tripe that I've picked up off the floor. Yeah.
100%. And there's one unique that's used in the majority of builds right now. So the helmet, I'm forgetting the name of it off the top of my head right now, but the helmet that allows you to use storm skills as werewolf is used in just every storm build because Grizzly Rage is a skill that's so powerful. It gives you unstoppable, which allows you to not be crowd controlled, which in the end game is a massive problem right now. CC is incredible in Diablo 4, and also gives you a huge critical strike damage buff with another legendary aspect, and so it's being put on almost most of the builds, most of the druid builds, and this is kind of the state of it. It's either you need it because it's so good, or it's trash because the affixes are so bad. There's a number of items that are out there being talked about, like Temerity as being like a really good item, and it has its use cases because it can interact with some damage stuff, but on its own, it's worse than regular pants because you can't put damage reduction on them.
Right.
We run through the HP calculations on those and it falls off hard. So and you've got this. So yeah, you got this scenario here where it's like, oh, there's a couple of uniques that, like, well, the way the game is right now, they just happen to be overpowered, and you have to have them, or you probably shouldn't wear it at all.
Yeah.
So should you be building towards techniques as your core?
Sorry, what was that?
Is that the best way to be using uniques? Then you get the unique you want, and then you build to that rather than just flavoring your build you've already got with your armor and stuff.
Like building around the unique. Is that what you mean?
Yeah,
Okay.
basically. So there's I mentioned the helmet. So where what you do is you take that helmet. It's got a unique effect that all storm skills become werewolf skills, and then there's a bunch of things that benefit from being a werewolf. Grizzly Rage as an example there. So there's another. I hope this doesn't get too complex or too without visuals. It's kind of hard to see it. But there's a legendary aspect you can put on that allows Grizzly Rage to turn you into a werewolf, and then you can use any werewolf skills in it. Well, if you're in Grizzly Rage, which you want to be because of all of its buffs, and you have storm skills that aren't werewolf, you can't use them. They get turned off. So you need that helmet to use your storm skills. So if you want to play Tornado, or if you want to play Lightning Storm, and you want to have access to Grizzly Rage, you need to wear that helmet. There's another unique that I from a build that I've made. It's called the Crone. It's something of the Crone. It's a staff that allows you to use two basic skills at once, and gives a multiplier. You can't really make a basic damage build with the game right now without that. It's like the only way you get enough damage out of it. So if you want to play with Claw or any of the other ones, there's only the two that you can with that one. If you want to have a basic attack skill where you don't have to like spend resources, you've got to have that unique. So yeah, you build around those concepts on those uniques if they're powerful enough, and you make your whole build kind of around that. So you make a Tornado werewolf because you can actually use werewolf with the unique, and then you set up everything around it. That's I think kind of how they wanted them to work, but they're just too limited. Like either they're so strong that you can just around that affix and you don't worry about the rest of what's got on it.
So like there's no
not
middle
all
ground.
uniques.
Yeah, there's not really any middle ground right now. Like, there's a couple of niche cases like where you can put in, say, like a speed farming variant because it's got more damage. But
Got it.
yeah, typically it's either they made it well enough to where it can stand on its own, or it goes in the trash. It's a lot of gold. They sell for a lot of gold.
Just to
So
so go on.
well, They're not all created equal, is what you're saying. It's what it sounds like to me as just an idiot here that doesn't really play Diablo 4. They're not, like, some are good and some are just absolute trash. And do you think they should be working on the trash ones, or do they need to rework how the uniques are working in the game?
Yeah, great question. So the reason why the ones that are trash fall off is because that unique effect might be cool and it might even be pretty good, but it's not enough to compensate for the fact that the other stats in it. So like the way that gear works,
Like synergy and stuff.
yeah.
Talking.
The way
Right.
Diablo 4 works is you have 4 affixes on a gear, and then you can put either a legendary, or if it's a unique, it'll be a unique affix on. So the unique affixes oftentimes can compete with a legendary affix, but then you have no control over the unique affixes beyond that unique affix. It's always locked into 4 other affixes. They're always the same affixes. They never change. However, with the legendary system, you can take a legendary affix and put it on any rare. So any rare, no matter what the affixes are that drop on that slot. So if you have a pair of pants and you get really good affixes and really good rolls, you just put that legendary on it and you've got a god tier item. So legendaries are not dependent upon, you know, whatever's on that item, like uniques are. If Blizzard designs the unique with bad affixes, that's just what it is. And that's, to me, the problem with it, is that uniques can't compete with that legendary aspect flexibility.
And yeah, and just to elaborate on that somewhat as well, in comparison to other action RPGs, Path of Exile, for example, usually people will start a league with a build type that's known as a starter. And a starter is a build where there is no dependency on gear whatsoever. It's generally quite powerful and easy to gear up once you get to late game. And then you'd use that starter to farm for the items that you really want for your main character, the one that you're going to actually play and maybe do something memey with or whatever, or you're going to take on it like the pinnacle bosses and stuff like that. So you can use a completely irrelevant class and build to farm items for the build that you inevitably want to play. In Diablo 4, smart loot kind of makes that horrendously difficult. Like, you could play a rogue and almost everything that will drop will be for a rogue. There will occasionally be an item that might be for a barb or for a druid or whatnot, but the vast majority of the items that you get are for the character that you're playing. So then you're like, okay, I can't get the gear beforehand to then work towards that build when I start leveling my second character. With the second character, and I think with druids in particular, you play whatever the items dictate. You find an item with like a legendary skill that gives one of your particular skills an advantage, you end up shifting to that skill temporarily until you find another bit of gear that makes a different skill more powerful than that, and so on. So you can't be like, oh, I want to, like McFluffin was saying, like make a build with that staff where you can do the 2 basic abilities at the same time. You have to basically wait until you find it on your druid, and then you go, okay, yeah, now I can do that build. You can't really work towards it. It will happen when you get the gear, kind of thing.
So it's focused towards the class you're playing. How much trash is dropping when you're farming?
Oh, most of it is. They made an interesting decision, because that's normal in ARPGs. Normally in RPGs, especially the higher up you get, the more stuff is bad for you, right? Because you're upgrading your gear, upgrading it, and the gains are just getting smaller and smaller and harder to find.
But usually you're getting other classes stuff, right?
Yeah, usually getting other classes, and also they decided that items have a lot of worth, like gold wise. They sell for a lot. So a lot of people get stuck just like picking up everything because it's all very valuable. This is unusual. Normally that stuff is worthless or practically worthless. So it's kind of created a hoarder mentality where, like, I got to pick up everything and then I got to go back and sell and come back and get more stuff.
So they created a benefit for like the trashier loot.
Yeah, a huge benefit. Like it's not good for you, but it's worth like 40,000 gold. I should go sell that. Then I can use for crafting and
kind of good, kind of bad.
Exactly. It's a good bad scenario.
That's kind of how I play RPGs. I'm a hoarder.
Yeah.
I would
So
say,
it probably fits your playstyle pretty well.
I would say there's a lot less trash in comparison to, say, previous action RPGs, even without a loot filter. Like, it would still be nice if we had a loot filter in Diablo 4, but if we were to turn off our loot filter in high-end maps on Path of Exile and then compare that to a screen on like a high-end Nightmare dungeon, the amount of text on the screen is significantly going to be higher on the Path of Exile screen. So
True.
For an action RPG, there isn't a lot of trash, but there is certainly trash of like white and blue items, which pretty much become redundant after maybe level 10. And obviously,
And you
the
can't
cap
filter them
is
out. There's no filter.
Yeah, there's currently no filter. The closest thing you can get to the filter is an accessibility option where by default, when items drop, it plays a sound, so you can turn off the sound for the things you don't want, and then you can just listen out for the sound if a rare drops or a legendary drops or even a unique, I think, but not what type of unique or anything like that. Like, you only want to see gloves? No, you're going to see everything, like whether you like it or not. You're going to hear it with every single rare drop and whatnot. So with everything that you've experienced so far, and of course the recent campfire with the changes they're looking to introduce within the next season or two that they've confirmed and said, yeah, we're definitely making these changes, what do you think your future with Diablo 4 is going to be? Do you think it's something you're definitely going to be sticking with for quite some time? Are you optimistic?
Yeah, I certainly hope so. I've definitely enjoyed the theory crafting side of it and testing of builds. That's been by far the most fun for me. I think people who are saying that this game doesn't have much build diversity or theory crafting, I mean, if you're comparing it to PoE, sure, yeah, I guess that's potentially true, but there's a lot to do, especially the Paragon boards alone. There's so much you can do with.
Yeah, I saw the Paragon board. That's intense.
It's intimidating, right? If you're
yeah.
I wrote the max roll guide on like planning it out and stuff like that. I still get confused by it. And I'm like, oh man, I didn't optimize that properly. And there's just like so much going on.
I'm looking at, I have someone playing it right now. He's at level 100 and I'm scrolling through it. It's intense. Like I wouldn't know where to start, but I think I'm only like in the level 30s. So
yeah, so
I know. So I can't even fathom it yet.
Yeah, which I think is great. It's a super smart move on their part where they took some of these more potentially intimidating, deeper systems and they moved them 50 plus. It's actually interesting to me that they made such a great move. Yeah, it's a great move for casual players. It gives you a chance to learn the game before you go. And then they did kind of the opposite with like the end game where it boils down to a smaller amount of content. So I hope they take what they've learned here from like Paragon boards and whatnot, and they apply it to the actual content of the game, allow it to expand.
It's interesting. Before I saw the Paragon board, I thought that the actual the skill tree was pretty small for a second. I was like, oh, it's not too bad. I don't know what everyone's talking about.
Yep.
I ate those words very quickly.
That's pretty cool.
That's the brilliance.
It is very cool.
Because you open the game up and you're not intimidated by it. It's not like, oh, you open up PoE and you look at that skill tree, like, nope, I'm closing it.
Kind of like training wheels in a sense. Like you go in, you're like, okay, I kind of get this. And then here's a whole bunch more, but you've kind of gotten a gist already since you've been playing for 50 levels. So that's smart on their part, in my opinion.
When I was playing Path of Exile, all I built was absolute trash. I couldn't do anything. I just kept dying because there's a lot of options there. And I'm like, I mean, I played a video game before and I have no idea what the hell is going on. And I have just made
big skill trees in the beginning. It's like, it's so intimidating. It can actually like deter people from wanting to even try out a new game. Cause it's like you go in and you see just like, there's a few times I play a game where the skill tree was way too big from the beginning. It's like, I don't even know where to start. And I'm not really like, I'm new to Diablo myself. This is my first Diablo. So if I had seen the Paragon skill tree from the beginning, it would have been like, fuck this.
Exactly. I think that would be totally fair for a game that's supposed to be casual friendly. If they threw that out in level 1, like, no, that's not casual friendly at all.
It's a good point, to be fair, because like we've mentioned, it often occurs when people level up in Path of Exile and then they open up the passive skill system, and it's this giant web. I actually showed you guys last week when
I remember when you showed it to me, and it's like, that's cute.
The thing is, like, the Diablo system, the Paragon boards are essentially a dumbed down version of the passive skill system within Path of Exile, and I'm glad they've included it because it does add that bit of depth that scratches the theory build crafter like within me. But likewise, when I did see the skill tree, I understood the design decision behind it, like the way you have to follow this path, and it essentially, without directly informing you of a tutorial, it essentially teaches you how to make at least a viable build. Okay, you'll need a resource generator, you'll need a mobility skill, you'll need a skill that probably has some kind of other utility like stunning or gives you life regen, etc. And then here's an ultimate skill, which often aren't that ultimate, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, so like it does guide you through it, but you could also argue the skill system on its own is simpler than Diablo 3's, which was a little bit disappointing for me personally, because obviously in Diablo 3 you'd pick one skill, but it had 6 or 8 variations. Whereas in Diablo 4, it's like you pick your skill, and then there's effectively 2 variations because the first passive is arbitrary anyway.
Yeah, I think there's more that needs to be added to that. I do think it's deeper than D3 because of the passives that you can choose from, and there are actual like some decisions to be made there that can be the difference between optimal and also whether or not you want to speed farm or whether or not you want to push nightmare dungeons. There are some options there, but there's definitely this is a much simpler thing than most people, even like compared to last epoch where there's skill trees within skills. There's a lot more decisions to be made there. And that one's still pretty friendly actually to casuals. So there's definitely more they can do to it or do for it than I would like to see like the skill trees, how they go, like you go, okay, you got the skill, and then you got 1 point to choose from, and then you got 2 points to choose from after that. It's like, well, the first decision isn't a decision. I'm going to take that one. I have no decision to be made there. So at least
there,
so at least make it 2 and 2. So like 2 and 4, like there's 2 choices, and then each choice has 2 more. At least that minimum amount, I think, is, and that's not going to be no one's going to be confused by, what do I do? Like, well, you choose between these 2, and then you choose between these 2. There you go, done.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'd like to see at least that much done with it.
Yeah, likewise. I would like to see a bit more depth. One thing I found with the skill tree, or happened to notice, and I mentioned it in a review that I did for the beta, was a lot of the skill trees for each class essentially has 4 builds in mind already, and it kind of urges you towards them. And I think that has made them dependent on then gear to further diversify what kind of builds you can have, which, as I mentioned, is then dictated by what drops you get. You can't just be like, oh, okay, I found all this gear, so I can put this towards making some obscene meme build that shouldn't be viable, but make it viable, kind of thing, which is the sort of thing I do.
Meme builds, do they exist?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like what?
Brian's been telling us about the bonk monk.
The bonk barb.
Yeah, I would like, you can definitely be a lot more memey in Path of Exile, but the reason for that is the Path of Exile skill system is you get the skill, and then you can modify that skill with generic adjustments. Like they'll have what are known as support gems, where you can add multiple projectiles, and you can effectively add that to anything that has projectiles. Whereas in Diablo 4, you have Fireball, and then you can make Fireball do 1 or 2 things. You have to pick one, and then you can get an item which can then affect it in the same way that support skill gems would in Path of Exile. So again, the meme builds are there, but you have to find the gear to enable them, and to find the gear to enable them, you have to be playing that class in the first place. Generally, you might come across, like on your rogue, you might be like, oh yes, that druid's unique, I've been after, cool, but the chances of that happening are significantly lower than if you were playing the class that you intend the gear for in the first place.
Got it.
So yeah, it's a bit hit and miss. Like, I find with Diablo, you just play the class you want and see where it takes you, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I do think that target farming options or opportunities are a big miss right now in Diablo 4. It's probably the worst for target. I mean, PoE you don't need to make your build, right? Like there's not many, I think, build enabling items. It's usually through gems and whatnot. Yeah. Diablo 4 not having and some of this is actually very easily solved. So just some background, there's the codex that exists, which allows you to have access to minimum value versions of legendary aspects. And to get those, all you need to do is run a dungeon. There's a dungeon for all of these codexes. You go to the dungeon, you run the dungeon, you have access to at least the minimum value version of it. The problem is not every legendary aspect is in the codex, and there are several there's probably quite a few that are build enabling. For example, aspect of the Blurred Beast is required for Poison Shred. It allows you to do like instant damage to a poisoned enemy based upon the amount of poison that's on them. You can't get that in the codex. So if you want to run my Poison Shred werewolf build, you've got to find it. You just got to hope it drops, and it's purely RNG. You might get it early, you might not get it till level 90. That's a problem. Wow. Anything that's build enabling, uniques maybe are a little bit different, but like as far as legendary aspects, to me, if it's build enabling, it should be in the codex, and then that problem solved. Then all you're looking for is the better versions of them. You can run the build, you can't run it optimally, but you can run a version of it that's actually doing the things you want to do.
Or enable proper trading, and then people are like, I can get this aspects from this crappy item that someone put up for X amount of gold, and then just rip it from there and things like that. Do you think they should
do that? People who don't like trading get screwed by that, though. So
I guess
is there global trading in Diablo? I mean, I've traded amongst friends.
So you can
So
trade
you
rare
can trade
items.
rares. Yep.
Yeah,
You can't
rare
trade
items and below.
legendaries, legendary aspects. You can't trade uniques. So all
Got
the
it,
ones that are
okay.
build enabling are shut off from trading.
And you
Why?
Can only, you can only trade within
yeah.
like the shard you're in, I believe. So like in Path of Exile, you join a trade channel and everyone's in there kind of thing. And obviously there are multiple trade channels, but there's usually hundreds of people in there. Whereas if you're in a trade channel in Diablo 4, I believe you're only in the server that you've like synced into, so 12 people. So it's like, how am I going to trade with these 12 people kind of thing, or only these 12
Can't you just
people?
invite them though through battle tags?
Well,
I know
mean,
it's a pain, but
like, how would you find items to trade? I suppose is what I'm trying to get. Because
there are third-party options now that are popping up. I know there's a big
Yeah.
Discord. There's a website that's popping up. I know some other groups are thinking about doing their own trade sites. But yeah, it's there's no support whatsoever from Blizzard on trading. Like there's like,
Wow.
you guys can do this on these items and figure it out. That's pretty much where it's at.
That's so odd.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that seems like a purposeful choice.
Oh, very much
What-
so.
Wwhy?
what I think they've done
It's
is,
Blizzard.
I think that rather than trying to solve a problem, they're trying to avoid one, and that problem is real money trading.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Rather than actually find a solution to it, which last epoch
But if you're
I
going
think
to a
have done.
third-party website, that's
I think it's
encouraging
like
it.
people are gonna find they're gonna find a way. If they're desperate enough, they're gonna try to find a way. It's like with anything else, but I guess Blizzard just wants to be completely hands off of it. Is that what it is?
Well,
That's what it sounds like.
They've
at least.
restricted what you can trade to begin with, so the things that you
Yeah.
can trade aren't worth trading real money for, really.
Yeah.
Unless you're
Right,
really
right.
desperate for like the perfect rare,
But-
maybe. But even then,
With yeah, okay.
There are really strong rares for sure, but
yeah.
with all the build enabling stuff not being tradable, I do think that probably depresses, the value and also probably the blowback they would get if like significant real money trading started to happen. It's like, well, you're only getting rares out of it. You can't get the uniques. You can't get the legendary aspects.
Yeah.
So I think so. I think this was a conscious decision. There was probably some PR involved. Like, okay, we don't want to completely cut off trading because that usually doesn't go well. If you want to see what the history of trying to avoid trading looks like, look at when last epoch said they're only going to do gifting and not do trading anymore, and how the community completely blew up on them. It's just not a popular thing for ARPGs to not offer any trading whatsoever. So we'll offer some level of trading so that people that want to trade have it, but we'll restrict it so much and offer no support so that it doesn't affect the average player very much, or even the hardcore player maybe doesn't get affected that much from RMT as far as like trying to be competitive. I think that was what they were going for.
Okay. I was thinking self-preservation per se.
That's
But that sounds
definitely
more.
part of
That
it.
sounds a lot better. Than
I was trying to figure out how they
Otherwise,
were going to make money out of it, because that's my brain, right?
oh, the money
That's later.
aspects. I mean, let's put a beautiful segue, Peachy. Let's talk about the money aspect.
All right, I'm in
shop.
corporate bullshit. Let's go.
Let's go.
I've had a ganders at the
He's
shop.
excited.
It is all 100% cosmetics. The cosmetics tend to be in like pseudo bundles. You can't like buy just a helmet cosmetic. You have to buy like an outfit, and you can get all the parts, and you can maybe get an emote and stuff. All cosmetic, however. The in-game gear words is actually quite pretty for a lot of it. Like a lot of it is, especially the for the source, or the sork as some people call it. That has like loads of like bombastic and like flary shoulder pads, like to represent what the various builds that you may be playing, things like that. Barbarian has some really cool skins. There's the druid has like a wolf head for a helm, for example, things like that. And the stuff in the store does look really, really cool, but it's not like over the top like in Path of Exile. You're not going to have like a dragon flowing out of your ass and then flipping a coin and then doing some kind of particle effect and then disappearing into the ether. It's just like, oh, you want to look like a barbarian? Well, here's a slightly different version of the barbarian to look at, kind of thing.
Path of Exile is free, right?
Yes, Path of Exile is free. The monetization
Not $70.
not $70, but the cosmetics are significantly more expensive. Like,
Okay.
it's-
So that's where they're making their money.
I think it's $28 for a complete set of gear in Diablo 4, and that's like the high quality gear, like in terms of aesthetics. Whereas you could be paying $70 for a set of wings in Diablo in Path of Exile, for example.
Jeez.
Yeah, like
Oh my
there is
god.
a significant difference. So
Yeah, again, they're not charging any money. There's no barrier of entry. You're not paying to spend money.
yeah,
Well, there's no barrier at first, But then if you want to keep playing and you don't buy stash tabs, you're going to have a hard time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's
Like
gameplay stuff
free to
hidden
play,
behind a
yeah.
paywall.
Yes.
Free to
For
play,
Path of
like
Exile, yeah.
anytime there's an option for free to play, it's never you're not gonna have as high of a benefit as like someone who actually pulls out their credit card.
Okay, PoE is on the shit
'Cause I mean-
list.
Yeah, it's not
Gotta make your money somewhere.
like necessary depending on how much you play, but if you are someone who plays Path of Exile a lot, you will end up buying stash tabs to make your life a lot
Yeah.
easier.
Like,
With
that makes sense.
Diablo 4, obviously there is the buy-in price of $70, which I do think personally is pretty steep. I do wish it was a wee bit lower. I don't mind that there's a cosmetic shop in it because it's a live service game and you're going to want continuous revenue to develop the game further every 3 months, every quarter. McFluffin, what do you think of the monetization / cosmetic store?
It's good for Blizzard. Like compared to other Blizzard games, it's good. But, you know, that's a pretty low bar.
Right. No loot
I mean,
boxes.
It's not pay to win. Yeah. So thank God, because I'm very pay to win sensitive. It's got a box price. It's pretty high, $70, and it was $90 to play the early access. So that was fun. Thankfully that's over. So no one's got to do that anymore. There's lots of cosmetics that you can buy. There's a seasonal pass, which is fortunately at least to start with only $10, but then you can get the accelerated version, which I think is $30 actually.
Is that the version of the battle pass
that are paid? Yeah, there's gonna be a paid expansion. So is it over monetized? Absolutely, it's absolutely over monetized. But I hate to, if you want to look at in relative terms to where the market is right now, or where the industry is, it's actually fairly quote unquote reasonable.
Yeah, it is all 100% cosmetics. Do you think they'll do stash tabs? That's the question.
Boy, that's such a popular question in my chat. So, well, let's paint the background picture here, because they have definitely created a problem that they could solve with money. They've given 4 stash tabs, and they are tiny stash tabs. Like compared to other games in the genre, it's not comparable. There's 200 stash tabs you can get in Last Epoch, and they're all larger than the Diablo 4 ones are. And then PoE you can get, I don't even know how many. If I've spent enough money on it, but even if you spend a small amount of money on it, you still have way more than you can have. So they've created this massive problem with stash tabs. Also, no search bar, so you can't even find what you want without looking at every single thing.
Oh, jeez.
Unbelievably bad quality of life. I don't know how they got that through, but they did. Anyway, that's a different problem. So they've definitely set themselves up, though, for selling stash tabs. The question is, are they going to sell them? Or are they going to put them in the season rewards so you unlock them, or some hybrid? Maybe they put them in there and then later they sell them to you if you didn't play the season. I could see any of these things happening with them. Like, it's, for me, with Blizzard, over time, anything is possible. We hope it stays, we hope it stays fair and reasonable, and they stay out of the pay to win stuff. But they have a history, so I can never be confident in that. We'll just see what happens.
Yeah, 100% agree. And like, it's funny because on one hand, you've got the fact that they've been like cosmetic only, no pay to win, blah, 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 advertise, talk about the buzzwords, do not do the thing that you all hate. That's on one side. Diablo Immortal, you're like, oh, why? Kind of thing. It's like, why did that happen? But so
even smaller than that, Classic WoW, right? Classic WoW. True. They said when they launched that, they would never do any of that stuff in it because it's Classic WoW. It didn't have that stuff in it before. Well, guess what? Wrath of the Lich King just got. It got the coin. You can now buy the WoW token, and you can use that on the auction house, $15, and get you a bunch of gold in the auction house. So that even that has been, to me, Blizzard has a history of, we will do it over time in small increments so that the player base doesn't revolt. And so is that going to happen in Diablo 4? If I had to make a bet, I wouldn't bet against it.
Right. I'm hopeful they won't do premium stash tabs. I'm not completely deluded, and I don't think that they'll never do it, but I'm like 60-40 that they won't do premium based on what we've seen so far. But I could be wrong. One question I also wanted to ask, and I don't know if it's going to be the same for you, but I'm massively into the world of Diablo. Like, I played Diablo 1, Diablo 2. Before Diablo 3 came out, when they made the books, the Sin War trilogy, I read those. I got the collector's edition, so I read the Book of Cain. I intended on getting like the Book of Adria, the Book of Tyrael, things like that. Got really into the lore. and then Diablo 3 completely ignores it for some bizarre fucking reason. And then Diablo 3 ignores it, and then Diablo 4 comes along and embraces it. What do you think of the writing and story in Diablo 4?
Yeah, another great question. So most games I don't care about lore. Last Epoch, I know what's going on there and it's fine, but it's not I love Diablo lore. I don't love it as much as you do. I don't read the books and whatnot, but I know the general story, what's going on there. I know that even how the angels were formed and the demons were formed. I know all that stuff. So yeah, the Diablo 4 story for me, it was kind of mixed. I love that they used Lilith. I think she's an awesome character.
Yeah.
There were definitely some twists in it that I really enjoyed. I don't know about the ending. I think the ending is setting up themselves up to do something much larger with expansion packs.
Yeah.
We'll just have to see. But the ending to me was kind of meh. Some of the characters were okay. I'm not a huge character person anyway, though. It's really what happens with the story that I care about. So I would say it was pretty decent. It was pretty decent. It didn't end quite like I wanted it to, but I liked overall where it went.
Right. And this is not me memeing here, but Lilith is one of my favorite parts about Diablo 4, particularly in the writing. Because in Diablo 3, you had Asmodan. No, it's not because she's mommy shaped. It's not because she's mommy shaped.
She actually is a really interesting.
But she is mommy shaped.
She is very much mommy shaped. Yes,
but she is a really interesting character. I'm teasing because I like her too. All meme aside.
What I love about Lilith is in Diablo 3 you had Asmodan, who would show up as like some freaky hologram. You'd be like, "Oh, you've defeated my sergeant. I will send another sergeant." Ha 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 ha. Like, did any of you watch Inspector Gadget when you were younger?
I loved Inspector Gadget.
You know, at the end you'd be like, "I'll get you next time,
joke.
Gadget. I'll get you next time." That's Diablo 3. All the villains are the villain from Inspector Gadget. Just throughout.
I didn't mind that.
You ever notice I have
hated
I have an animal next to me that I pet while I'm talking to you?
Yes,
It's just like Inspector Gadget.
it's very caricature, like just very awful
Diablo 3
writing.
was very playable, and things happened that were like, okay, a thing happened, cool. Like, I'm one of the people who enjoyed Diablo 3. So
I didn't mind the Diablo 3 story. It didn't bother me as much as most. But at the same time, I didn't play Diablo 1 and Diablo 2, which I know was like, how dare you? But I wasn't allowed to when I was a kid because I grew up in a very Christian household. So Diablo 3 was actually my first experience with it. So which is probably why I don't mind it as much. I mean, I know the butterfly thing. People hate the butterfly thing, and I get it. Like, butterflies are kind of a dumb enemy, but overall I did not actually dislike the Diablo 3 thing, but I really do like overall, or more like you mentioned Lilith, but also Inarius, like that whole the whole story of Lilith and Inarius and how they effectively created humans through the Nephilim by creating the Nephilim and then using Sanctuary as their effectively sanctuary. That whole thing is super interesting, and they make the characters very complicated. Like, there's not really any perfect characters in Diablo lore. They're all flawed. The angels maybe more than anything. That's what I love about Diablo.
Yeah, so like you had like Diablo and Diablo 3 was terror, and then put that on loop. Like, I could literally press the loop button and be like, just spam
that's
terror
great
for the rest of the
Kill
days.
the terror. Cool. Next thing, give me a big axe.
I love terror.
Lilith has so much more to her though. She shows even dare I say it, some humanity. Like, there's a scene early on in the game where she comes across her dead son. I do wish they did more with Rathmar. I do wish they did, but that's as a lore buff. Like, when you get on the way to Rathmar's pad, and I was like, oh, we're gonna get some Rathmar stuff, yay, kind of thing. And it's like, oh, he did, kind of thing. And then that's it. And it's just like, oh, all right, okay, fair enough.
He wasn't just dead; he was very dead.
He was very dead. He was just chilling on the floor with his emo hair, and I was like, oh, they did my boy Rathmar dirty, kind of thing.
I felt like they mailed that in a bit.
The meme here in this podcast is I don't give a shit about story. I care about the game first, and then sure, story. But I'm into Warhammer 40k, which is just so much story.
It's all story practically.
An abundant story. Yeah, I love how Lilith just made you feel things. Like, she got angry about Inarius killing Rathmar, and it's just like, oh, you could see the rage on her face, and it made you feel a bit more, as opposed to, oh, I've got this guy shouting over my shoulder every 15 minutes while I kill all of his armies and stuff like that. I just thought there was a significant difference, especially in the tone, even in side quests, where you, for example, you find the the guy who ended up getting a kink for being flayed. It's just like, all right, cool, mate. Yeah, you just left your wife to get flayed by a succubus. You do you, mate. You do you, kind of thing.
It's a
Are you
succubus.
sure we're not talking about Warhammer?
No, this is definitely Diablo 4. With Diablo 4, they went very, very dark. There are people who have kids who've played the game, and they've been like, oh, as a father, this kind of makes me feel a bit, kind of thing, and stuff like that. Like, some of the tones that they investigate or push the envelope out on are considerably darker compared to previous games.
That's cool.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's definitely darker.
It's definitely aimed at a more mature audience. So, just before we head into the break, then, just a couple of quick fire questions then for you, McFluffin. The overall game, would you say it is something that Action RP veterans should at least check out?
Yeah, they should at least check it out. Not everyone will find it to be to their liking with the current end game state, for example, but I think that a lot of them would be surprised at the other elements that are here that are very good, like the actually playing around with builds. I actually have someone in my chat who has never played the game but keeps theory crafting builds. He doesn't want to play the game, but he likes theory crafting the builds. So
That's
there's a
actually
lot
pretty
there.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Are you going to be playing Season 1?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I'll be no lifing that week for sure.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be booking some time off myself just to fully go into it. And final question, and it's a very, very annoying and specific question, and it will either be incredibly easy to answer or very, very difficult. Favorite class?
Oh.
It's hard for me to answer because I've played almost exclusively one class so far because I'm on the Maxwell Druid team. So I mean, I love Druid. I decided to stay with Druid as a main Druid Maxwell creator for a reason, because I do love the diversity of it. So it's a bit of a cop out to say Druid, but it's also kind of true because I do love the diversity of it. But I need to spend more time on the other classes to be before I can give you like a fully actually yet, no doubt about it. There's no other class that compares for me.
Right. I mean, I've played pretty much all the classes. A lot of it has been on the rogue. I'm trying to make a poison imbuement rapid fire rogue because I want to see if it's going to be better just to hit constantly with rapid fire in comparison to less often with penetrating shot, for example, and see if that stacks the poison better. But yeah, I want to play the druid. There's so much about the druid that looks cool. Like many of the abilities look so cool, but it's so item dependent. I'm just
I like the character design for the druid too. I made a druid. I haven't played as a I've just like made one of each of the classes for like later down the road.
Yeah,
and I do like the character design for the druid. I love the chonky boy.
Yeah, the druid's design is fantastic.
It's so good.
With like lycanthropes, they always either mess it up and it looks cringe, or it looks amazing, and Blizzard smashed it. I always loved the werewolf druid in Diablo 2. I thought the design of that looked really cool and the way it moved. So you've got to get it right, otherwise it looks horrendous, but they've done a really good job here. But that's going to be it for the first half, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go into a break. We'll be around 5 to 10 minutes. Mics will be hot.
Mics are hot!
Mics are hot, baby!
And when we come back, we'll be talking about probably Steam Next Fest and some of the things that we've been doing over the last 2 weeks. And we'll get to perhaps hear some other games that McFluffin likes to play. Yes, go get yourselves a drink, and we will BRB. And welcome back, everyone, to part 2 of episode 11 of the Fully Rendered podcast. We have just been discussing a lot of Diablo. We may touch a bit more on it because I know Pulp's been playing it this week, the last 2 weeks. But let's
no spoilers, I promise.
Let's give Lone Star McFluffin a bit of a rest because he's been talking all the Diablo and probably writing all the Diablo. And let's start with Peachy. He's been
theory crafting whilst we've been doing the podcast.
Yes, many builds. So you've played obviously quite a lot of the demos. Are there any that have particularly stood out for you?
A lot actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
Surprising when you have that many games. I don't want to go through. Like, I started off and the first couple of games were like gold, and I'm like, oh wow, this is gonna be great. And then I had like a big chunk of just like. Either it wasn't ready for a demo, or it was just not something you could learn quick enough on a stream when you're playing so many games.
Yeah.
Essentially, I'll explain what I did. I downloaded 64 demos. I put them on a wheel. I span the wheel twice, and then chat voted for which one we we're going to play. We played that one, take it off the wheel, spin again, basically.
Right. Okay.
Little Kitty Big City. I had a lot of fun with that, and it was the first one that I had to like. Oh, I need to play another game now. The art style is really cute, and you play a cat.
So another cat game.
Yeah, another cat game, but there's a lot more freedom than Stray. Because I know a big complaint about Stray was the lack of
Little Kitty Big City. I'm gonna be looking them up on Steam while you're talking about these, so I can get like a visual.
Look at the art style. It's wonderful.
It's adorable.
Really nice. Yeah. The animations for the cat are just spot on. It's got a lot of humor in there. It's not like, it's not cutting Chaucer sarcasm humor, but it's funny enough. And you have to find shinies and give them to a crow. Essentially, you start on the ground floor and you're supposed to get back home because you fell off your thing. It was just, you could, in Stray, you can either jump there or you can't. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to have a go, see if I can do this. You can just go anyway. It was just pretty freeform. Oh, this didn't work. You can snuggle with humans, which is the opposite of can you pet the dog. So that was kind of cool.
Okay.
I recommend checking out the demo. You'll know within a couple of seconds whether it's your kind of thing, I think.
I mean, it looks precious. I love it.
There's a game that confused me. There's a lot of games that confuse me, actually, because I'm like, well, I thought it was this, and then it suddenly goes, no, it's actually this. Wizard with a gun, I think it's Devolver.
Right, yeah.
It's quite funny because it's Devolver. They're wizards, and their magic spells are they know how to build guns. Okay. And I thought it was going to be a twin stick bullet hell, and it's not. It's an RPG crafting kind of thing. It dips its toe into something like Don't Starve,
Right.
when you're like crafting and stuff. The combat felt a bit like I don't know, but most of these demos make a terrible mistake of starting the demo at the start of their game, which I don't think is the best idea for a demo. Because when you're starting a game, you're ready, you're set, okay, I'm going to play the game, teach me some stuff, show me some fluff, do a bit of talking, cool. But when you're playing a demo, you're like, just give me a slice. Just throw me in, give me enough information to get on here and see if I enjoy it, right?
Right.
So I think that was my problem with Wizard with a Gun. Same with Ghost Tack, which is a remake of a 3DS game.
Okay.
Which one? Ghost Trick?
Ghost Tack. It might be Trick. Maybe I wrote it down wrong.
Ghost Trick Phantom Detective? Yeah, that's a
that's
DS
the one.
remake. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'd never played that.
Game.
I turned on this demo and it said Capcom. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's an awesome
I thought I was
game.
playing indie demos.
It's sick. Did you like it?
Maybe.
Okay, then that's a no.
They did the cardinal sin, start of the game, all this story, which did get across the humor, which looks interesting. But then, like, from the demo I played, you're a dot and you move to other dots, you push one button, and then you go to the next thing. And I'm like, well, like, is it like this the whole time? With I push one button and then I sit down and watch a cutscene? Because I can't be arsed with shit like that.
Right.
Like, I'd play a Telltale game if I was.
I played it like a long time ago, so I'm gonna check out the demo. I didn't know they made a demo for it. I'm curious how they started off.
But it's on my list. It is on my list to check it out again.
It's very charming. That's what I loved about it.
I need to check some of these games on Steam while we're going through. House Flipper 2 looks to be on track with an actual sequel of House Flipper, the original.
Okay.
Everything's better. It looks better. There's more stuff to do. It's a more interesting way of like painting. Even I think if you know what House Flipper is, buy House Flipper 2. There's no question there. I think that's
You like the visuals over House Flipper 1, the less realistic, more cartoony?
I did, because like the problem about an older game looking realistic is it kind of looks like shit compared to what. Yeah, that's the problem with realism, right?
That's a good thing. Like, it's funny because you have like, people used to shit on cell shading. Like back, I remember like Zelda Wind Waker, when that came out, everyone was shitting on that because of like the cartoony look, but it actually aged extremely well because of that. So I agree with you fully.
Yeah, when you add like an artistic flair to a game, it does tend to because of the artistic flair.
It doesn't look so realistic down the road, does it?
I think in current generation where we can do, like, you've seen all the demos from Unreal and stuff, we can make things look insane. I think art direction is becoming even more important. I mean, it's always been important, but I think it's becoming more important to give visual clarity to everything you're looking at instead of, oh yeah, that's a brick wall, cool.
Yeah.
Especially like in the realm of like MMOs and stuff like that, which a lot of us probably dabble in at one point or another. It's like, oh, it's a fancy MMO, and you could probably put like 5 next to each other and be like, they're all Aeon, or they're all like RuneScape, or they're all like one particular thing. There's nothing that really distinguishes them as much as you would hope. Whereas then you got like Warcraft, and it's like, oh yeah, that's definitely Warcraft. Oh, that's definitely ESO. That's definitely like Diablo 4 or Lost Ark or whatever. Sometimes you just get games in a genre where it's just like you need like a specific art direction or a bit of a like characterization.
Well, it's like someone pointed out Borderlands in my chat, and like, yeah, like that game aged extremely well because of that art style. It works.
100%.
Borderlands 1, the gameplay didn't age very well.
No, not the gameplay. I meant the art style. Borderlands 2 is still one of my favorite games.
Yeah, Borderlands 2 is better than Borderlands 3. It's a shame. It's weird.
Dude, oh my god, we don't talk about Borderlands 3.
I'm gonna have to skip through because otherwise, let's see. The next thing that really like stood out to me is probably Space Trash Scavenger.
Okay, go on.
It's a builder, like kind of survival. You collect items and build stuff and try and get home. It is 6 degrees of movement. You're not on a flat plane. Oh, tree, go get the tree. You are in space floating around the planet. Right. And it was really cool. It's made by 2 people. And it is so polished. A demo.
Really?
One of the most polished demos I've played that wasn't from a larger studio. Okay. It looks great. If you like survival games, it's brilliant. It's really good. Like it matters where you build stuff because you build like a solar panel, right? So you can get power. But everything's a cube. It's a cube. And the thing is about that cube, you can get sun on every corner of that, and that depends how much power you're gonna get.
Right. So when you say if you're cube, like voxel or?
No, it's not. It's not voxels, but what you're building is a cube, probably to keep down on how complex a base is gonna be. It's just squares, right? Just squares. Yeah, I'm sure the developers just went just squares. You listen here, you little shit. No. It was just. It's fun. It's well put together. It's already got polish on it, and it's made by 2 people, and it did stand out to me as one. Oh, I need to get to the next game because I've been playing this too long.
Right. Just interject. Did any of you play the Alone in the Dark demo?
I did. It is painfully short.
Yeah.
It was like 10 minutes, and nothing really happened in it. And I think the thing was like 16 gigs. So I was like going in expecting this thing because like I love horror games. I try to play a lot. I'm trying to play more horror games on my channel again. Right. Because for a while like I was playing only horror games, and it's funny after I stopped doing that, my like people just left. Yeah. Like screw this. But I was I never got to play the first Alone in the Dark. So I was like, oh hell yeah! Who is it? David Harbour is in it from Stranger Things, I think.
Yeah.
And I saw the demo. I was like, oh, dope. And I played it on my channel. And it was like 10 minutes in. And I was like,
all 6 minutes of it. Yeah. 16 gigs.
It was like
for
6
a
minutes.
6-minute demo.
Oh my. Yeah. My reaction was just like, this thing was 16 gigs, dude.
Yeah. Right.
I couldn't wait to get it all. That's what I was saying to Peachy. I was like, I uninstalled a lot of my demos when I finished playing them. And my dumbass didn't even realize that they leave your library. I always forget about that until like later. Right. And that was one of them. And
did you enjoy the 6 minutes of joy that you may have had with it?
No, I did not, because I did not like the child.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. 6 minutes.
The child annoyed me.
Time.
Oh, so it's like the movie then.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, exactly. It was just like it had a case of shut up. Please shut up.
Right.
Oh, if you like horror games, you want to check out Unholy.
Oh, I was just looking at Unholy.
It's going for a realism thing, but it currently looks wonderful. Oh, they are pushing whatever engine they've got. It looks wonderful.
I think I'm looking right at it.
Germany in the part that was a little bit Russian. Because well,
that was a
some
little
of
bit
Germany
Russian.
looks very Russian, right?
No, I get you.
For obvious reason. No, it was, yeah. I was like, okay, it's a puzzle walkie game, and that's not usually my kind of thing.
Right.
But the horror, it just kind of added, and everything looks real, but there is this little uncanny valley around the corners, and you're like, oh, this is weird. I recommend checking out that demo.
What kind of horror game is it? Is it
I
like...
just added it to my wish list so I could check it out later because I'm not downloading anything while I'm live.
Don't
Not
know.
again.
But they did their demo very well. They went, here's a slice. They give you a little bit of fluff to tell you where you are.
Right.
And then they ended that little section. They went to another section further on, give you a bit of fluff to know where you are. And they did it. That was a very good way to set up a demo.
Right. So you couldn't tell if it was like cosmic horror or a bit more.
There is some supernatural cosmic weirdness happening.
Right.
Definitely,
Ooh.
but it just teases it, or as far as I got, it just teases. Like some of these games, I played them for 6 minutes and went on to the next one.
Right.
So
Mhm.
there's a lot of games to go through.
Did you play Viewfinder?
I did not. It did not come up. It didn't even come up on the roll. It is still on this. But tomorrow I'm going to go through all the ones that I'm like, oh, I want to check that. And people are going to vote for games.
Fair. I've heard good things about Viewfinder. Apparently it does play really, really well.
I'm going to talk about a boomer shooter.
Of course.
Oh, good.
Captain Wayne. I think it's built on the modern Doom sourceboard thing.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's insane. You play a pirate captain, but you don't have guns. You turn your arm into a shotgun or a machine gun. It's all sprite based. The sprites are like really simple, and I was like, they just shit this together. And I started playing it, and the music kicks in. It's fucking really good. But there is so much happening on screen. I'm like, oh, this is why everything's basic, because too much is happening. I think I have ADHD now.
Right.
But it was cool. It gave me ADHD, but it is cool. So
Yeah, that's a probably not what I'm going to put as an accolade, but it's a good quote nonetheless.
Okay.
5 out of
What was the
5.
name again?
Peachy
What
Pixel
was the
8
ga-
gave me ADHD.
I have ADHD, so now I want to check out this game.
It's called, where is it? Captain Wayne something.
Well, I'm gonna test that theory.
I played a ton of city builders as well. I don't know if anyone's interested in
All right, I
city
just
builders.
added that to my wish list.
I mean,
I think apart from one standout, if you like city builders, you'll like them. Most of them seem to be decent. So,
is there,
stop.
is there a demo for City Skylines 2?
There is not, no. Because
Sadness.
I wouldn't have even rolled that. I'd just be playing that.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
A game I don't know if I liked. I think I hated it, but I also think I enjoyed it, but I might hate it. It's called Stop Dead.
Okay.
And the premise of the game is don't stop because you're dead. If you stop holding a button to move, you die. Game ends, you start again from the thing. And it's kind of a shooter. You go through a short level, shoot the guys, move on to the next thing, don't stop moving.
Right.
And I was like, oh, this is fun. But half the time I'm just wiggling my keyboard back and forth to have a look at stuff set out the fight, instead of like, they want you to always be moving and yeah, come on, let's go. But the second you stop, you die, right?
Right.
But I couldn't stop for a second to take stuff in, and I'm like, I hate this.
Jiggle on the spot kind of thing.
This main mechanic that the game is built around and named after, I hate.
Right.
But everything else was good. It looked great. Gunplay. Well, it's not gunplay. You kind of pick up items with your mind and throw them at people.
Right. Okay.
That was good. Oh, On Guard.
On Guard. That
I couldn't play it for very long.
I didn't play it for very long. I didn't beat it, but I did play that demo. It was so charming.
It's yeah. You know the trailer. You're like, oh, this could be really good. It is that game that was in the trailer. It is that game.
I really liked it. It did feel kind of like it would be very. What did we say about it when because I streamed it, and I think we brought up that it kind of felt like almost like a more kid friendly like Souls game to me for some reason. I don't know why.
I mean,
kinda did.
I guess I don't know.
I guess.
I don't know what Souls like
More
is
like how
anymore.
bright
To
and
be
colorful it
honest.
was. No, I know. I play a lot of Souls games.
It
But,
is
like,
the game you
it was-
saw on the trailer. It's definitely that.
It's very charming. I thought it was a lot of fun. I love the colors, but I think I
Funny
played it at
too.
the end of the night when I was getting kind of tired, and I just kind of I was starting to drag, so I know I didn't finish it.
Speaking of
yeah.
Souls-likes, did you play the Lies of P demo port?
I did, and I finally finished it last night.
Oh,
And
how long is it?
so it's the first 2 chapters, and I played most of it on stream, and then I just finally beat it last night by myself. I'm really looking forward to it. It's probably the closest we're gonna get to a Bloodborne 2.
Okay.
It plays extremely well. It's very, very fluid. I'm surprised I like the more tanky build, and so it's basically, which is what I liked in Bloodborne. So I'm going back into that.
I heard the dodge button's a bit sketch.
Huh?
I heard the dodge button is a bit sketch. Like you
Yeah,
press
it's more.
it and it's not
Yeah,
really
you
a dodge.
definitely want you to block more. Because when I was streaming it, I was I was basically, long story short, I was in a rush because we were gonna go meet my family or meet a friend of mine, and I was like, I gotta beat this boss before. And because when I was told it was more, or I was under the impression it was more of a Bloodborne-esque game.
Right.
What did you do more in Bloodborne? You dodged, you didn't block that much. So me was dodging everywhere, and I was stuck on this boss like for a long time. And then I came back. I don't know if it was that same night or the next day. I came back and knowing like, okay, you gotta block this time. Beat him in one try.
Right.
So it's the game doesn't want you to dodge. It wants you to block.
I've heard that there's a mechanic that's a little bit misleading, and they've gone in a kind of a different direction compared to almost any other game ever. Like, gents, if you were to see something do a move and it was telegraphed in bright red, what does that usually mean to you if something's about to hit you and it's telegraphed in bright red?
Me?
So Peachy and McFluffin.
Oh yeah.
You can't block it.
Right. Is that what you
It's
think
the
as well, McFluffin?
I don't play those kind of games very much, so I don't see that. But I mean, that does make sense that you wouldn't be able to block it. Or
That's
it's
when they
unstoppable or
want you to
something.
hit it.
Yeah, so in Lies of
Okay.
P, if it's red, that's actually when they want you to.
Yeah,
Is
I
that
saw
when
it
they
the
want
first
you to dodge, or when they want you
It's
to?
when they want you to
parry.
use a charge attack on it.
Right.
And so I see it, and I'm like constantly like I'm panicking entirely. It is very misleading.
Yeah.
I could see where it is, like, because the first time I came across it was there's like the way they do the tutorial, like, practice some of the moves, is they have these little punching dummies, which is kind of cute. It's
Right.
before the first boss, and I thought it was an enemy for way too long. Embarrassingly long time. Why can't it die? And they do the red glow on it, and they even kind of say that you can like do a perfect block on it.
Yeah.
And so the game itself is kind of misleading in general, unfortunately.
Is the comeback good though? Because it's one I've been keeping an eye on.
I like it. So I played another game. I have to pull it up really fast because I cannot remember half the shit.
I nearly
that I played.
downloaded it, but I thought, no, you two got this covered.
I will eventually
What?
play it.
I've literally offline been playing a Souls like, thank you very much.
That's fair. That's fair.
What were you playing while she looks at it?
There's
The greatest game ever made, The Surge.
All right, okay, cool. Yeah.
So there's another one that I found at the same time. So like when I discovered like the trailer for Lies of P, there was 2 other games that popped up, which is Steel Rising and Thymesia.
Right.
And I downloaded Thymesia, which it looks, if you look it up on Steam, it looks like Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Like your character dressed like a plague doctor. And my fiance played it a little bit too, and actually we both bought it at the same time. He played it more than I did. I actually have to go through it again.
Right.
And it's very odd how like the gameplay, like there's like noticeable like delays, and like it doesn't feel as good as you want, like as Lies of P does.
Yeah.
All right. And even like Steel Rising, like when I played it, it's like the one it takes place during like the French Revolution.
Yeah.
And you play as when I was playing Lies of P, there's a lot of me drawing a lot of references to Steel Rising because of the mechanical dolls and everything that they're very similar. But when I started that game, I picked, I think, like the chakram rings or something. And I was like, dude, this could be so fast. I'm so stoked. DPS. And then my character would like do these long drawn out animations, and I would get knocked out constantly. So I ended up going for like a rapier or something like that. So in comparison to those two, Lies of P feels so good.
Right.
I'm actually really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because like in Thymesia, like if you've played a Souls game and you play like Dex classes or Dex builds, where they're very, very fast.
Did you play Thymesia?
I haven't played it, but I've seen a lot of people play it. I was
Okay.
considering getting it, and then I saw other people playing it, and then I was like, I'll pass.
Yeah.
It's a wee bit
I
short.
bought it and I haven't even, like, I'm not gonna lie, I played the demo, but I haven't played the full version. I bought it a long time ago.
Yeah,
Too late to
it's-
return it now.
It reviewed okay. It's relatively
Mm-hmm.
short, but if you only like playing Dex classes, then you'll love it because it's very fast paced. It's very Dex class type of build, lots of dodging and things like that. But if you
I'm
like the
usually
tankier
Dex, so,
stuff,
yeah.
then you won't really be fond of it. It sounds like Lies of P has a bit of maybe something for everyone. If you want to play like a really slow, deliberate build or a tankier build, you can do. If you want to play a faster build, is that something
In the
possible?
beginning of Lies of P, it gives you an option of doing like a balance they give you 3 weapons and you can pick them up late. There's a merchant right before the first boss that you can pick up the other 2 weapons if you choose to. Like, so you pick out the one you start with. So when I started with it, I went Dex because I beat Elden Ring, Platinum Elden Ring with a Dex build. So I went Dex and then I picked up the other ones, and the balance ones kind of, felt obviously a little bit more tankier, like a lot more heavier. There's good weight to the combat. But I was struggling with that boss, and I went with the heavier weapon, and I ended up like sticking with that. It feels really good. So if you like a tankier build, it feels good when you're playing as it, and it's
That's
still
what I
it's
build
not
in those games.
yeah.
That's
I
cool,
like
that's
being a big beefy boy with a large weapon.
Well, you could be a big beefy boy, but a pretty e-boy at the same time.
Oh my god, the dream come true.
fantastic.
It's perfect. I just found at the end of the demo, I found a donkey mask. Because it's the story of Pinocchio.
Right.
You could get a donkey mask, and I
Right,
found it because there's this big chunky donkey boy who's
A chunky donkey boy. That's something I never expected to hear on neither this podcast or anywhere ever, to be honest. But yeah, I like it.
I aim to please, as you know. But
I'm curious. This mask, is it like one of those like horse masks that you can get in real life?
it
or
looks
is
like a horse mask.
I kind of wanted it to just be like a paper mask where it's just printed on. You know what I mean? Where it's not
But it
3-dimensional.
looks like a horse mask. But what's
Right.
cool is after you beat the last, so there's like 2 bosses, and then you fight the donkey dude, and that's how you get your pedo and shit.
Right.
And you get his gear, just like true Souls fashion.
Right.
And after you beat the boss and you go back to like the main like hub area, it'll just tell you thank you for playing, but you can still keep playing the demo,
Right. Okay.
That's cool.
Okay.
which is pretty dope.
Before
There's
we-
only a few more games I want to bring up.
Oh, yeah,
sorry,
go,
Ryan.
go.
Well, what
I'm
was
so
this?
sorry.
No,
I
you're
took
good,
over.
you're
That was
good.
my fault.
No, that was intended. Don't worry.
We were talking about the game.
Oh, so wait, just one last. No,
Yeah.
I just saw someone in my chat said that apparently the developers of Lies of P have said they're looking to improve the dodge.
Yeah, I have heard that.
That's good.
'Cause at the
Okay,
moment,
I'm
it's just
sorry.
more of a movement skill rather than an actual dodge. But before we continue with the rest of Peach's list, McFluffin, you said you played some demos. Maybe some of them are what Peachy's played already. So what have you played?
Yeah, well, he mentioned House Flipper 2, and so I played that one.
Right.
I ran into the same problem where I uninstalled and then they're just not showing up, and I didn't realize that. So.
Yeah, it's the worst. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, you want to reference them, and you're like, shit.
Yeah, like what were those ones I played? Where are they? Why aren't they on my list?
Yeah.
Oh, they're gone. Okay. So yeah, I played like probably 5 or 6. I didn't have a lot of time, but I played that one. I played a Vampire Survivors like that looked like it was doing okay. Like it was kind of coming along all right.
Oh, is it Hell?
Oh,
something?
I think I saw.
I think so.
I think
Yeah,
I saw
it's
that
just
one. I love
sci-fi,
Vampire
2.5.
Survivors. It's such a great game.
Is it the more 2.5D version of it?
Yeah, I think it's a top down. I mean, they all are, but yeah, it looked like it was made probably in Unreal or something like that.
Right.
It was okay. Like I could see with meta progression, it could be kind of fun, but nothing
Is it
crazy.
Halls of Torment?
No, that
is
one's
that-
actually in early access. That one's very good. If you like
Oh,
those
okay.
kind of
Oh,
games,
never
you
mind.
should play that.
I'm gonna look that one up then. Thank you very much.
That's very good. It's got a Diablo vibe, but in the Vampire Survivors
I
style.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. And then the only other one I think that I played one that was like a life simulator. I can't remember the name of it. It was okay. That one's gone on my list. And then
Primitive Social Simulator?
what was it called?
Primitive Social Simulator?
No, it was set modern. Like you were in an apartment and you had like an old truck, and it was all right. Like I actually added my. I can't probably find it, but I added to my wish list. My wish list is like 500 games at this point.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
So good luck, you know.
Yeah.
And then the only other one I tried, Demolish and Build 3, because I really wanted to like the 1 and 2, and I never got into them. I think I get it a 3. I think there's a chance. I like simulator games. If you haven't noticed, I do like those a lot. So I'm kind of hoping I can get into that one because it's got a really cool premise.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the demo only had like a breakdown. It's just Demolish. There's no build. Just Demolish is one thing, and there's no build. So I'm like, well, I don't know if half the game isn't even there.
Yeah, that is half the game, considering the other games.
Yeah.
Although some of the other games are a bit more click here and it's done kind of deal. Move some stuff around and then it's built by itself.
Which is exactly why I'd want to see what the build's like, because if it's just like that, I might not be into it.
It's the same thing then, otherwise, isn't it?
Yeah.
Were there any
What do you
others?
think of House Flipper 2? The new mechanics and people hate the window cleaning.
See, I don't mind the window cleaning. I learned how to do House Flipper 1, just like basically just move your mouse really fast back and forth, and you can do it in a couple of seconds. So I never really minded that much. The thing that annoyed me on that one was all the books all over the place. I'm like, I don't want to move.
Oh, you couldn't get rid of any of the books.
Yeah,
it was so annoying.
Get out of the way.
I'm trying to build a home here.
Exactly. Yeah. So it seems good. It actually got me back into playing the first one. I played it quite a bit for a whole day because of it. So I really like the first one. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
I think it's going to be good.
Are you a power wash simulator enjoy?
Love it.
I am.
Absolutely.
I love that's such a great game. It's therapy.
Yep, that's like the ultimate chill game. Like just chill and just enjoy how what's the word I want here?
Zen?
Zen, or just like satisfying. How satisfying.
Yeah.
Oh
playing
yeah,
that game
when you
is.
clean something.
I was before they updated it with like all the achievements. I got pretty far in it, and I've actually been like, damn, I don't want to do all that again. And I did the firehouse the first time. I didn't realize you could move all like the or like, I don't know the scaffolding, but the little things that you can like climb on. You know what I'm talking about. So I spent most of it just jumping, using the high power, and even like
that works too. It's emergent gameplay.
I did it, and I even managed to go. I would go on the top, climb on the ledge, and position myself perfectly so I could try and get everything.
SpongeBob DLC is out on the 29th.
I do it with almost every game. Like it's a bad habit of mine. I don't look around my surroundings, and I'm just like, I'll figure it out on my own.
Bad habit, or just proof that you're a god gamer? It's hard to say.
Pro gamer status.
Gamer.
Agree. Excellent game.
So, Peachy, you had more games on your list?
Okay, one game. Now, nobody look this up. Pulp. Nobody look this up. Okay, this is homework for everyone here, including the guest and everyone watching. There is a game called Sludge Life 2. There is a demo out for it. Just download the demo, go to the settings, turn off VHS, because fuck that noise, and play that demo. Okay? You will either love it and want to buy it, or you will just destroy your computer. One of the two. There is no in between.
What's VHS?
Oh, look it up, Pulp!
I'm not.
VHS is an effect they've put on the game, and it makes you want to vomit. Just turn it off. It's horrible.
Right, okay.
I love how I can yell that.
What was that
Game.
called?
It's called Sludge Life 2.
Sludge Life 2.
Sludge.
Oh, I see it.
How do I download it without looking it up?
It should be on the front page of the Next Fest thingy.
Oh, so just
All
don't
right.
read anything about it. You're saying just
Don't read it.
Okay, I didn't read it. I went on the page, add it to my wish list, and I'll download it after this. Okay.
Okay.
I promise. I didn't read anything.
Okay, I believe.
avoided it.
I believe. Okay.
I don't think you do.
So I can't pronounce this next game. But Brian, this is for you.
Okay.
It's called Nahulberg's Dungeon Master.
Okay. Go on.
That one's for you. It's cool. It's Dungeon Keeper. It's Dungeon Keeper.
Okay.
I downloaded that one. I haven't gotten to it yet. Is it worth it?
Yes, it's worth a play.
Wait, it's
I would
Dungeon
give it
Master?
more than 6 minutes like I had to do on my stream, because there's a lot of stuff you got to take in, right?
What was it called again? Sorry?
I just found it. Just look up dungeon and it will take the
Dungeon
second one
Master.
down. Yeah, it's the second one down.
Nahulbeck's Dungeon.
Oh my god, this is Dungeon Keeper. Oh,
Okay.
can I slap the
I know
goblin?
you're a fan of that, Brian. Anyone who's ever played Half-Life, there is a game out called the Mueller-Powell Principle. And whoever the dev team who is making that, it loves Half-Life, but also wants to make their own game.
Right.
It's good. I'm not saying they just got, oh, here's Half-Life. There is like, I was like noticing these things. I'm like, oh, that's a little Easter egg. Oh, that's a little Easter egg. Until I realized the entire game was an Easter egg. And it was like, oh, am I playing Half-Life 3? Yeah, they give you a gravity gun.
Right.
There's a weapon that you can draw energy from. Say you can draw in heat energy, and you can use that to melt something for the puzzles and stuff.
Right.
You're a scientist. There is a security detail going around trying to clean up this mess of a dimensional rift that is open. Sound familiar? And they're murdering all the scientists. And you're trying to save the place.
Okay. So it's kind of like an homage to...
It's definitely an homage. I was like, oh, they just like the game and they put in these little things. And I'm like, no, this is an homage. 100%. SteamWorld Build does have some Dungeon Keeper-esque stuff to it. It's a very... old school style city builder, think Sim City style.
Yeah.
Very cool. And a CCRPG that I haven't been able to play a CCRPG since the original Wasteland. Because I'm like, oh, I don't like those games anymore. And I played this game called Broken Roads. It's an Australian game.
Is it by the same devs that did Eden New Dawn or whatever it's called?
I have no idea. Let me have a look. Broken Roads by an Australian development team, and it's very Australian. Everyone in there is all Australian, mate. It's by Drop Bear Bites.
Potentially, because I know there was a game like I think it was Eden New Dawn or something like that. It was like XCOM-esque, and there was like anthropomorphic.
It's not XCOM. I thought it was going to be XCOM. It is. But it's action points and shooting points, but it is more like your Wasteland.
What game was that again? For the there was one that I was thinking of that, or I was looking at that was compared to XCOM. So I don't know if it's the same one you're talking about.
Oh, I think I played something that was going to be like it, but then I got annoyed with it and turned it off because I have like 6 minutes to play a game.
Sorry, what was
was it Ultra Core? No.
What was the name of that?
Shadow
last one?
Gambit?
Sorry.
Broken Roads.
Broken Roads.
I played a demo of a game, very RPG heavy. Then there's combat and stuff, and it absolutely shit on me. So obviously I like it. That didn't come out right at all.
No, we get it. You
we got it.
That sort of thing.
Look, I'm not from Cleveland.
It's okay. It was a demo. You don't have to pay for it this time.
I'm done. And I was playing it. I'm like, oh my god, I want to play this game. I've been playing this. Like, I'm playing demos for a couple of minutes at a time, and this one was like, oh, remember that genre that you don't want to play anymore? It's back, and you want to play it. Right. So that was another standout.
Peachy, was one of the demos you played The Invincible? That was one I checked out that looked
The
kind of
Invincible.
Neat.
No, I don't recall it.
Honest to God, just checked it out because the art style. It looked kind of neat.
It's
like, you know, lo-fi.
Sci-fi.
The lo-fi sci-fi.
One. Yeah. It's the ones by 8-bit.
It's a walking
Studios?
simulator.
Is it 8-bit Studio?
I think so. It's a walking simulator.
Who make Frostpunk and all.
Yeah.
Oh, I played a game that was like Frostpunk.
Because we were yeah, I was looking into that one. It seems kind of interesting.
It's one I intended on checking out. I remember when they announced it at the Game Awards.
Echo Point Nova?
Pardon?
Sure. Gesundheit.
Sorry. Just me shouting random shit. Oh no, that was a boomer shooter that I am.
It looks really nice. So.
Were there any others that stood out to you?
Yeah, a lot, but I've already been talking for 45 minutes about.
We're going to talk about Ebenezer because you and I played
that's the one, Ebenezer.
Oh yes,
I want to love the game.
I really want to love it too.
Before you continue, so for those who aren't familiar, there is a game where the concept is Ebenezer Scrooge is the hero. And he's just like, I'm gonna beat your ass with ghosts, kind of thing.
His special abilities are there's a ghost that uppercuts. You can stomp on someone's head as Tiny Timmy, and yeah.
No, Tiny Timmy is. Yeah,
He's alive, but there's a Tiny
another
Tiny
kid.
Timmy.
There's another.
So
It's Tiny Timmy's friend, Peachy.
yeah, Peachy, Tiny Timmy's friend, Peachy.
Yeah, exactly.
They did the bad thing of here's the start of the game, go, and it's slow and boring. There isn't music in it.
So much. It's a lot of dialogue. And like the amount of times, like I see, here's the thing is like, I do love stories in games. And I'll put it this way. I'm going to keep my eye on it.
It's not a game. It's a demo. That's the issue.
No,
here.
I mean, yeah, that's a demo, but semantics. God damn it. Anyway.
But I'll sit through that for hours. If it's a game, I'm getting ready to play the game, and a demo.
The thing is, it's like for a demo, it puts you in the beginning of the game, and I'm all about story. I'm all about like, learning more about the lore, but it's so dense with dialogue, right from the beginning. It takes you so long to even get the demo going that it's like, if you're trying to get people to like want to play the game, it's not really the right way to go about it.
Game.
You have to give them more game. And then on top of that, I was talking with Peachy, you two had walked away, and I admit this is a very petty complaint for me. That, when it comes to games, like, when we were looking at the trailer and everything, like I'm all about music in my game, and especially when you play like Metroidvanias, like everyone, when you think of like Symphony of the Night, like everyone, the music and like all that, and you could hear them like it feels like it was trying to like get there, and you're like, I hear a little bit of a beat, but it just like would just drop off and just continually,
because the game isn't ready to do that for you yet, because it's right at the start.
It's a metaphor, basically.
It was edging.
I remember we were like, I was saying with my chat, like, I bet like this would feel a lot more fun if like it, I get more into it if there was like even like some music, but you'd hear like little sleigh bells in the background, a little bit of a beat, but like that's it, just dropped.
Yeah, for like
royalty-free Christmas
3 minutes
music,
of the 6 minutes I played, I was running through streets of London with no enemies, just experiencing the world as you would when you play the game, and it eases you in.
I got pretty far in it, and I just over time, I think I just got lost. I couldn't figure out where to go anymore, and I played for a while. I got like 30 minutes in or something like that. I was giving it a chance, and I just was starting to get. Like, I was just kind of bored after a while. It wasn't enough.
One trope of Metroidvania games, they start you with everything and go power fantasy, and then they kick you back to the start.
Yeah,
why didn't they do that with even if they don't do it with the game, do that with your demo?
Yeah, but both Peachy and I said we were going to keep our eyes on it. I'd stay on my wish list. I really do want to see it. I want to see it do well.
I want to like it.
I want to like it. Like, it's so.
I want to beat people to death with Tiny Timmy's leg. Do you know what I mean?
Ebenezer handsome.
he's anime handsome, isn't he? With his big coat running around.
Yeah. But it really feels like a Flash game from Newgrounds too. It's funny.
Yeah, the art style. I'm like, it's
so bright and colorful.
I don't know what it is, but there's something missing. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's not quite there, and it could be because it's a demo and it's not ready for prime time. It could be that, but it's on my wish list, and I really want to like it because it's Ebenezer Screws hitting people with the Ghost of Christmas pack.
It's such a goofy concept, and I love it. And I'm playing it, and I was raised Jewish, so I'm like, yeah, Christmas.
Yeah, Christmas!
Christmas! I only celebrate Hanukkah growing up. This is my first exposure to Christmas. Not really.
Oh, imagine that game being your first exposure to Christmas.
Oh, can you imagine?
Oh, this is what it's about. The tactics are weird, bro.
Old men beating the shit out of people? Hell yeah.
That's all my games, Brian. That's all I got.
Well, hopefully Ebenezer meets or exceeds expectations upon release. Was there anything else before we go to Final Fantasy 16? Was there anything else anyone wanted to bring up from Steam Next Fest? Or Steam Next Fest, rather? No,
I've actually just been going down the list, and there's a bunch of new demos I'm going to check out. I might end up like catching up with P2. No, I'm not getting 64. I can't do that to myself. But I am going to be downloading a lot more demos because you guys pointed out some that seemed kind of interesting.
McFluffin, are there any that you've yet to get around to or are eagerly anticipating? Maybe even new releases?
after Diablo 4, I think I'm all new released out for like the next 6 months or
Right,
so, unless
right.
Last Epoch comes out next 6 months. So
You're going to be watching or keeping an eye on ExileCon with regards to
Oh,
the
yeah.
PoE
Oh, yeah.
2 beta?
especially now that Blizzard's trying to just take them head on and be like, oh, you're doing ExileCon? Well, guess what? Our first season's coming out at the same exact time. So yeah, we'll be definitely paying attention to that.
Dick move.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Big move.
they're going right after them. They're
Especially when you
not even
compare it-
hiding it.
Especially when you compare it to the devs for Last Epoch, who are trying to purposely synchronize what they're calling cycles to the equivalent of seasonal leagues with Path of Exile. So when like Path of Exile's finish, Last Epoch can be like, okay, we'll take your players for a bit. Like they can hang out with us for a month and a half. And then
Even GGG does that. Like they have decided, okay, like so when Cyberpunk came out, we're not gonna go up against that. We know you guys want to play that game too, so we'll just push ours back a month. It's only Blizzard.
whereas Blizzard is just like, nah, fuck you all. We're just gonna trample and
Is that gonna work?
cannibalize. Well,
That's not gonna work. There's a season coming out, or you got brand new announcements with a new demo for a brand new game.
Well, yes and no. As we alluded to at the beginning of the stream, Path of Exile is a significantly deeper and more complex game in comparison to Diablo 4. Diablo 4 has marketed to the mainstream market heavily. Like, again, I really want to know what that marketing budget is, because I imagine it's, at the very least, the most they've spent on marketing.
It's
at
$70
Blizzard.
a head. That's how much.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
mean, like the amount they've done, the only time they did that much was probably for WoW, when they were having like Mr. T with his Night Elf Mohawk and stuff like that, and having like celebrities
I
on mainstream
forgot about that.
TV ads. Like they did mainstream TV, they did a live action TV ad, they did the Halsey thing. There was just so many weird things and extra stuff that they did. A lot of it was US centric. Yeah, would love to know what that budget was, because I bet it was gargantuan.
Massive.
But yeah, so Paul, for the last 10 minutes, Final Fantasy 16.
Can I mention one thing?
Sure.
Because there was the Nintendo Direct on the 21st.
Oh, yes, it was.
And I am very stoked that I'm just only going to mention one thing, that they're remaking Super Mario RPG, which I grew up with. And
You've got your elephant's
amazing.
chunky boy.
Oh, I'm so excited because not only it's a full remake, but they kept the art style. So they didn't change it at all. So like Peach doesn't have a neck and it looks wonderful.
Isn't
But
it pre-rendered, the original?
yeah, it was, but they're keeping that art style.
Okay.
Like it looks, I mean, obviously I think it's real time now, but I already pre-ordered it. I know we shit on people who pre-order sometimes, but I had to. That's a game I'm going to be playing 100%. And there's some pretty cool stuff at the Nintendo Direct as well. But
Yeah, it was
I
a-
know
it was a
I'm
strong-
alone in that.
I mean, it was a strong direct. I watched it and I was just like, I don't play Nintendo games. Like the only
I
time I use my
have one
Switch
and I
is
didn't even watch it.
like,
Oh yeah, and there's also Star Ocean 2 remake is also on there, but that's
Star
an
Citizen
anime game.
2? They haven't finished the first fucker.
Well, I'm excited for that one because I played it a lot.
sorry,
when I was a
for
kid.
which game, Paul?
Star Ocean 2.
Star
Oh,
Ocean.
Star Ocean. I thought you said Star Citizen.
If they took the style of Octopath Traveler for it, it's an old PS1 RPG. It's like I loved it as a kid. It was very strong. Like if you haven't checked it out, and you do play. Well, that's on Steam actually. You can download it. You can pre-order that one on Steam if you want. But I know you don't
pre-order
like anime
games.
Don't
I
pre-order-
pre-ordered
Give you
them.
beta access or something you really want.
Don't pre-order
doing it
unless
anyways,
you're a
it's so-
content creator. Then ignore our hypocrisy. Okay, we need to do it for the content.
For the clicks, you don't understand.
Yeah.
I need validation.
These are two I'm really excited for, so I'm pre-ordering them anyway.
So how was Final Fantasy 16?
Wonderful. So in comparison to like past Final Fantasy games, like it doesn't feel as much as a Final Fantasy, like story wise, like tone. So I like the amount of times I'm like, sex in my Final Fantasy?
Right,
Like
right.
you get borderline nudity in this thing. It's very much like it's been compared to like Game of Thrones for a reason.
Right.
Like, I've only gotten like, okay, so story wise, I'm not giving any spoilers, don't worry.
Yeah.
What was in the demo is like it's very early on in the game. Like they do the first like whatever, like
It's like 2
hour or
hours, I
so.
think.
Yeah, whatever it is. They do that and it does carry over into your save file.
Which I think
Which
is
is nice, so you
really
don't-
cool. Yeah. That
I
you can
love
play the
that.
demo and then you can be like, okay, I've bought the game, and you just
Yeah.
carry on from where you finished in the demo. And that's it.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. And then there's a second part of the demo where they showcase all the powers and everything. And it's you don't have to play through it, but it does tell you some of the story that happens after.
Right.
And so it doesn't take place that much further past where the demo stops. So
Right.
it's not like a huge spoiler except for the fact of like two of the, they're called icons in the game, but like I'm just gonna still call them espers. But like, yeah, you get to like it kind of spoils like what two espers you're gonna get.
Right.
But yeah, tone wise, very different from normal Final Fantasies. It plays a lot. It plays so much like so well.
Right.
Like there's like really good weight to it. There's a lot of like the combos. Like there's the skill tree isn't too extensive, as far as I'm aware. But I do like that they also included like essentially an easy mode. They gave it to you. You don't. It's all optional. You can add on like there are like certain accessories that it'll do like automatically dodging for you and all that. And if that's not your thing, if you're not into like you're not very good at video games or whatnot, but you want to experience the story, I like that they threw that in there for you.
Yeah, I think the way they've implemented it was really cool.
Yeah, and but the skill tree does expand too. I forgot to mention that. So I saw in my chat they do expand the skill tree as you like get new of the espers.
Right.
So it gets bigger. But so far I haven't gotten very far in a game. I just got past like my first big huge battle.
Right.
So now like the world's opening up a little bit more for me, and I'm looking forward to play more of it. I was going to play a little bit more today before I go play D&D.
Right. The combat, it's like it was done by the lead combat dude for Devil May Cry.
Yeah,
Does it feel a little bit Devil May Cry?
It does.
Yeah, did you not know that? I swear I told you. Yeah, like
it does.
So when they formed the team
feels like Final
for
Fantasy
16, they were literally like, okay, we want to do combat, action combat. I know. I'm best mates with the guy who did Devil May Cry 5, 4, and 3. Let's get the guy who does the combat for that, and they just got him.
The guy who worked on Final Fantasy 14 worked on this one too. So it's like Final Fantasy 14 meets Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. But story-wise, I'm not that far, so I can't even spoil it really much of anything anyway, which is good. But one of the things, this is such a like silly little detail for me, but I love it, is like while you're playing the game, you just because I'm playing on PS5, you could hit the touchpad, like hold that down for a second, and it'll open up like a glossary of like all the characters that are being mentioned within the certain like conversation and specific lore and locations that they're referencing. So if like you're playing the game, you're like, who the fuck is that?
Yeah, they have they're a really in-depth encyclopedia essentially.
It's so user friendly. Like it's such a simple ad, but because I'm one of those people, like especially like if I haven't played a game for a while, like I'll play the RPG and I'll get really into it for a while, and then you just stop playing like maybe for a few months, and then because other things are coming out. You forget everything. So what I like about it is they added this mechanic in where you could just hold that down and it opens up and you're like, oh, so that's who that is. Oh, that's what happened. Like I was playing it on stream the other night, and they like, just like any other like, these RPGs, and well, it's not just RPGs, it's just like any fantasy world. Well, I guess any like new world that you're including, like they start like dropping all these names, and like Final Fantasy 13 was like the worst for me, like where I was just like, I don't know what the fuck half the things they're talking about. So in this game, they're kind of doing that too, where they're saying the word like dominant a lot, like they're like a lot of dominatrices. And I went and I was like, what? I don't get what the dominant is. So I just pulled up the glossary, and like and everything's just like broken down. While you're like in the middle of a conversation, you could do that too, which is
so essentially
sick.
Something you would usually buy a third-party book for, or a magazine or whatever. You'd be like, okay, what is all of this stuff? But it's actually put into the game as a help guide. It's
something I haven't seen in another game before, and it's something that I think a lot of games absolutely need. Like I can see something like even like Warhammer would probably like absolutely benefit from something like that if they're like dropping all these terms, and if you're a new player, you're like, I don't know what half this shit is. Or even just a returning player, and it's just a button away, and then you could just do a quick like crash course on it, and you're like, hell yeah.
Cool.
But yeah,
I mean,
excellent game so far.
I'm looking forward to it, but it's something I won't be able to play for a long time. Is it on PlayStation 4? I have got a PlayStation 4, but I'm loath.
I don't have
to play it.
I haven't played my PS4 in a while, so I don't know. I bought a PS5 specifically because while I'm playing this game, I literally said out loud, I don't think my PC would ever be able to handle this.
Right, yeah.
So that's why I have a PS5. It's a PS5 exclusive. Thank you very much, Dago.
Hopefully, I'll either get a PlayStation 5 relatively soon. If not, then whenever it comes to PC, I'll hopefully have a 4080 by then. So it's definitely something I want to play.
I have a 30 series. I don't know the name of it exactly. And it would struggle for me to stream this game. It's very dense.
That's fair. Was there anything else that anyone wanted to touch upon that's been maybe in the news in the last 2 weeks? Yeah, Peachy?
This doesn't count as been in the news.
Okay.
Warhammer has released all its rules for free. Listen, it is important. I know. I say this about everything about Warhammer.
Bring it up. Every episode.
They have released all of their rules, and all the armies and all the point costs have now been released for 10th edition. And they're all for free. You can go to their website and download them for free. They've never done this before. Side note, if you're playing Death Guard, you need a rhino. You need at least one rhino. They have fucked us. Okay? That's it. I'm sorry. It is important. They've released 10th edition. It's important. It is important. Shut up, Mom.
I love how I was like, is there anything else? And I was waiting. I was waiting for
Sorry.
the Warhammer.
That is a very important thing for my
There it is.
McFluffins, we never go one episode without Peachy bringing up Warhammer at least once.
He's allowed to do that, by the way. He is allowed to do
that's in the contract. It's in the contract.
I made sure they put it in there.
Have you played the ARPG? The Warhammer one?
Yeah, Martyr?
Yeah, Martyr.
Yeah, I'm not very good at ARPGs, but I played it and I enjoyed it. Is it good? Because I enjoyed it.
Some people really love it. I think it's got a lot of depth. The combat feels exceptionally floaty to me, so I've never been able to get into it as much as I want to.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the combat did feel. I haven't played ARPGs properly. I mean, I played Diablo 3, but that's kind of like a console game. In comparison to like when I tried Path of Exile, so I was like, it's probably like this. I don't know, but I love the whole lore of Warhammer, and it's very Warhammer. So yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
I loved everything about it, but the combat. Unfortunately for me, that was kind of a deal breaker as far as
that's kind of one of. It's the first letter in the genre title.
Kind of important.
Action. No, it's not very good.
It's a distinct lack of action here. Shall we do shout outs in that case?
Sure.
Yep. Okay. McFluffin, you have got your own little card especially for you. Tell us about who you are and where we find you.
Oh, okay. I'm primarily an ARPG content creator for Maxroll and also stream a lot and have my own YouTube. You can find me most easily at LoneStar_McFluffin on Twitch. And then I also have McFluffin Gaming on YouTube. And those are my two primary methods of delivering content, or on Maxroll itself, maxroll.gg. I have a lot of content for both Diablo 4 and Last Epoch on there.
Fantastic. When I said your own card, by the way, when I do shout outs, I put you up on screen with a bit of text. You are a reader of philosophical texts and builder of guides.
You're really good.
So yes, and
that's good.
Yeah, YouTube and Twitch on there as well. Pulp.
Present.
Shout out.
Hey guys, I'm Pulp Fictionally. I'm a former Instagram model turned variety streamer. You can find me on all social medias under Pulp Fictionally, with the exception of Twitter, which is Plot Fictionally, because someone stole my name. I will be on tomorrow playing some more Final Fantasy 16. I know it's usually Shitstorm Sundays, but I kind of feel like doing that. But you can find me on my Twitch tomorrow.
Fantastic. And
Peachy.
Hello, my name is VinciPixel8. I cannot stand Warhammer, and I will never talk about it on my stream on twitch.tv/VinciPixel8, or on Twitter, or on my Instagram, where I don't post Warhammer miniature. Shit, this fell apart, didn't it? Follow me, but most importantly, follow this podcast on Twitter.
Yes.
And play Sledge Live too.
And finally, hello everyone. My name is Brian the Pirate. Thank you, of course, to my co-hosts, Pulp and Peachy as always, and thank you to our esteemed guest McFluffin for joining us for this this episode and nerding with myself, mostly me, about Diablo 4.
I
I'm an action
enjoy
RPG.
I
hearing
enjoyed
nerds
it. I was-
talk informatively about shit. It was great.
I was enjoying it. I was listening just as intently as when I do when Peachy talks about Warhammer.
Fantastic. Yes, if
Oh,
you wish
I'm
to
sorry,
find
guys.
me anywhere else, you can find me on just about everything ever. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, maybe, probably, all under Brian the Pirate. And yeah, and that's going to be it from us all here in the studio. Thank you all for joining. I hope you will join us for the next episode in 2 weeks' time. Farewell. We'll remember
Bye.
you.
Bye.
So Horace Lupercal, right? He's